I'm 27 years old, work as a physical therapist in Seattle, Washington, and make about $68,000 a year. I've been going to the same LA fitness for about 3 years now. It's conveniently located between my apartment and my workplace, so I usually stop there after work around 6 p.m. This started in February 2025. I had my usual routine. Get to the gym, change in the locker room, work out for about an hour and a half, shower, and head home. I'm pretty consistent with it, same days each week, Monday through Thursday. One Thursday evening, I was about halfway through my workout when my iPhone buzzed. I was on the treadmill, so I pulled it out of my armband to check. The notification read, "Airtag detected near you. This AirTag has been moving with you for some time." I stopped running and stared at the screen. Someone had put an AirTag on me, or near me, but where? I made the AirTag play a sound. A high-pitched beeping started immediately. It was coming from my gym bag. I got off the treadmill and went back to the locker room. I opened my bag and dumped everything out on the bench. Water bottle, change of clothes, towel, protein shake. And there, stuck to the inside pocket of my bag with what looked like double-sided tape, was an AirTag. My hands started shaking. Someone had put this in my bag. But when? I'd had my bag with me the entire time, except when I was in the locker room changing. I looked around. The locker room was mostly empty, just 2 other guys getting changed on the other side. Neither of them was paying attention to me. I pulled the AirTag off and examined it. Standard white Apple AirTag. No identifying marks. I walked up to the front desk and asked to speak to a manager. A guy in his mid-30s came out. Name tag said Marcus, fitness manager. I explained what happened, showed him the AirTag, showed him the notification on my phone. He looked concerned. "I'm really sorry this happened. Do you know when it might have been placed?" "No idea. I just got the notification." "Okay, I'll review the security footage from the locker room area. We have cameras in the hallway, but not inside the locker room itself for privacy reasons. Give me your contact information and I'll call you if we find anything." I gave him my number and took the AirTag with me. I didn't finish my workout. I just grabbed my stuff and left. When I got home, I called the police. A Seattle PD officer came by about an hour later. I showed him the AirTag and explained everything. "These cases are becoming more common," he said. "People use AirTags to track others, usually for stalking purposes. We'll file a report, but without knowing who placed it, there's not much we can do right now." He took the AirTag as evidence and gave me a case number. The next day, Marcus from the gym called me. "I reviewed the footage from yesterday. Around 5:45 p.m., right after you went into the locker room, a man followed you in. He was in there for about 2 minutes, then left. He wasn't carrying a gym bag or any workout gear. Just walked in and walked out." "Do you have a clear shot of his face?" "Not really. He was wearing a baseball cap pulled down low. But I saved the footage for the police." "Has he been to the gym before?" I checked our system. "He's not a member. He must have walked in when someone else was leaving. We have a front desk, but if someone walks in confidently, sometimes they're not stopped." I thanked him and called the police to let them know about the footage. I didn't go to the gym for the rest of that week. I worked out at home instead, did some YouTube workout videos, went for runs outside during daylight. The following Monday, I decided to go back to LA Fitness. I couldn't let this person control my life, but I was careful. I parked under a light. I kept my bag with me at all times. I checked my belongings constantly. I finished my workout without incident. As I was leaving the gym around 7:30 p.m., walking through the parking lot to my car, I got another notification. "AirTag detected near you." My heart sank. I made it play a sound. The beeping was coming from under my car. I got down on my hands and knees and looked under the chassis. There, attached to the undercarriage with a magnet, was another AirTag. I pulled it off and stood up, looking around the parking lot. There were maybe 30 cars scattered around. Any one of them could have someone inside watching me. I got in my car, locked the doors, and called 911. 2 patrol cars arrived within 10 minutes. I showed them the AirTag, explained it was the second one, told them about the first incident. One of the officers searched my car thoroughly, under the seats, in the trunk, under the hood, around the wheel wells. He didn't find any other tracking devices. "Whoever's doing this is persistent," he said. "They're replacing the AirTags as you find them." What am I supposed to do? Document everything, Check your car daily, vary your routine, and consider filing for a restraining order once we identify who's doing this. The detective assigned to my case, Detective Park, called me the next day. We're working on getting information from Apple about both AirTags. It usually takes a few weeks to get a response. In the meantime, be vigilant. Over the next 2 weeks, I found 3 more AirTags. One in my work bag, one attached to my bike, and one in my jacket pocket at a coffee shop. Each time I reported it to Detective Park. Each time, she said they were still waiting on information from Apple. I was losing my mind. I couldn't go anywhere without wondering if I was being tracked. I checked my belongings constantly. I bought a Bluetooth tracker detector and scanned myself multiple times a day. I stopped going to the gym entirely. I stopped going to my regular coffee shop. I changed my route to work. I even considered moving to a different apartment. 3 weeks after the first AirTag, Detective Park called me with an update. Apple responded. All 5 AirTags are registered to the same Apple ID. The name on the account is James Carlson. Who is that? We ran his information. He's 34 years old, lives in Bellevue, no criminal record. We brought him in for questioning. And he denies everything, says his AirTags were stolen a month ago and he reported it to Apple. We checked, and there is a report on file that those specific AirTags were marked as lost. So he's lying. Probably. But without proof that he personally placed them, we can't charge him. It's his word against the evidence. What about the gym footage? The man who followed me into the locker room? We reviewed it. The quality isn't good enough to make a positive ID. The man in the footage is the right height and build as James Carlson, but we can't definitively say it's him. I felt helpless. So he just gets away with it? For now, but we're building a case. If he contacts you directly, or if we find more evidence, we can arrest him. In the meantime, I'd recommend getting a restraining order. At least then, if he comes near you, we can arrest him for violating it. I filed for a restraining order the next day. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. During those 2 weeks, I didn't find any more AirTags. I thought maybe James had backed off, knowing the police were involved. Then, the night before the restraining order hearing, I got a text from an unknown number. "You're making a mistake." I screenshot it and forwarded it to Detective Park. 5 minutes later, another text. "I know where you live. I know where you work. A restraining order won't change that." I called Detective Park immediately. She said they'd trace the number and that I should show the texts at the hearing tomorrow. That night, I stayed at a friend's apartment. I didn't feel safe at my own place. At the hearing the next morning, I presented everything. The 5 AirTags, the gym footage, the texts. James sat across from me with his lawyer, maintaining his innocence. His lawyer argued that the AirTags had been stolen, that the text came from an unknown number that couldn't be traced to his client, and that there was no concrete evidence James had done anything wrong. But the judge saw the pattern. 5 AirTags over 3 weeks, all registered to the same Apple ID. The threatening texts the night before the hearing. The restraining order was granted. James was ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my home, my workplace, and the gym. As he left the courtroom, he looked at me, not angry, not threatening, just blank, like he was memorizing my face. That was 2 months ago. I haven't found any more AirTags. I haven't received any more texts. Detective Park said they're monitoring James's Apple account for any new activity. But last week, something happened that made me realize it's not over. I was at a grocery store I'd never been to before, across town from my usual place. I was in the produce section when I noticed someone watching me. A man, about 6 feet tall, mid-30s, wearing a Seahawks cap. He was standing near the bakery section, phone in hand, looking in my direction. Our eyes met for a second. He smiled slightly, then turned and walked away. I finished my shopping quickly and left. As I was loading groceries into my car, I checked underneath the chassis. There was an AirTag, attached with a magnet, same as before. But this time, when I pulled it up, I noticed something. Written on the white surface in black permanent marker were 2 words. "Still watching." I called Detective Park. She said they'd look into it, but without catching James in the act, there wasn't much they could do. The restraining order prohibited him from being near me, but if he hired someone else to place the AirTags, that was harder to prove. I don't go anywhere alone anymore. I have friends or family with me constantly. I've installed cameras at my apartment. I check my car every single time before I drive it. But I know James is still out there, still tracking me, still watching. And the worst part is, I don't know why. I've never met him before this started. I have no connection to him. He's just a stranger who decided to make me his target. All because of a piece of technology the size of a quarter, an Airtag. And I'm starting to realize that maybe I'll never be free of him. Maybe this is just my life now. Always looking over my shoulder, always checking for trackers, always wondering if he's watching. Because the restraining order means nothing if he's determined enough. And based on everything that's happened, he's very, very determined. I'm 24 years old, work as a kindergarten teacher in Charlotte, North Carolina, and make about $44,000 a year. I live alone in a small apartment about 15 minutes from the elementary school where I teach. Most weekends I like to go shopping at South Park Mall, just to browse and get out of my apartment. This happened in January 2025. It was a Saturday afternoon, around 2 p.m. The mall was busy, lots of families and teenagers walking around. I'd been there for about an hour, going in and out of stores. I bought a sweater from H&M and was heading to Sephora when my iPhone buzzed. I pulled it out and saw a notification I'd never seen before. Airtag detected near you. This Airtag has been moving with you for some time. I stopped walking in the middle of the mall corridor. People flowed around me as I stared at my screen. Someone was tracking me with an Airtag. I tapped the notification and selected Play Sound. A beeping started immediately. It was coming from my purse. I found a bench near a fountain and sat down. I opened my purse and started taking everything out. Wallet, keys, phone charger, lip gloss, hand sanitizer. At the bottom of my purse, tucked into a side pocket I rarely used, was an Airtag. My hands started trembling. Someone had put this in my purse. But when? I'd had my purse with me the entire time. I hadn't set it down anywhere. Or had I? I tried to remember. I'd gotten coffee at Starbucks when I first arrived. I'd set my purse on the counter while I paid. Then I'd carried it into H&M. I'd set it down on a chair while I was trying on clothes in the fitting room. Someone could have slipped the Airtag in during either of those moments. I looked around the mall, hundreds of people walking past. Any one of them could have done it. I went to mall security and explained what happened. The security guard, an older man named Tom, looked at the Airtag and then at my phone. "This is the third report we've had this month," he said. "Someone's been planting Airtags on shoppers." The third? Has anyone been caught? Not yet. We've reviewed security footage from the previous incidents, but the mall is too crowded to identify who's doing it. What should I do? File a police report. And I'd recommend checking your car before you leave. Sometimes they place multiple trackers. I thanked him and went straight to my car. I checked under the seats, in the trunk, under the chassis. Nothing. I drove to the nearest police station and filed a report. The officer said they were aware of the incidents at South Park Mall and were investigating. "We think it's the same person," he said. "Always targets women shopping alone, plants Airtags in purses or bags. We're working with mall security to try to identify them." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about someone watching me at the mall, following me, waiting for the right moment to put that Airtag in my purse. The next day, I checked the Find My app. The Airtag I'd found was showing as offline, which made sense since I'd left it with the police. But then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. There was another Airtag showing on the map, and it was at my location. I made it play a sound. Beeping started from somewhere in my apartment. I searched frantically, under couch cushions and drawers, behind furniture. The beeping was getting louder as I moved toward my bedroom. I found it tucked under my bed, attached to the bed frame with a magnet. Someone had been in my apartment while I was gone. They'd broken in and planted an Airtag. I ran out of my apartment and called 911 from the parking lot. 3 officers responded. They searched my entire apartment, checked the windows, the doors, looked for signs of forced entry. "The lock hasn't been tampered with," one officer said. "Do you know if anyone has a spare key?" "Just the landlord." They took the Airtag as evidence. Detective Reeves was assigned to my case. "We're going to request your apartment building's security footage," she said. "See if we can identify who entered your unit." I stayed at my parents' house for the next 3 days while the investigation continued. Detective Reeves called me on the 4th day. "We reviewed the footage. A man entered your building on Sunday evening around 7 p.m. He was wearing a delivery uniform and carried a package. He went straight to your apartment door. Did he break in? No, he used a key. He was inside for about 3 minutes, then left. How did he get a key? We don't know, but we have his face on camera. We're running it through our database now. 2 days later, they identified him. His name was Marcus Reed, 31 years old, worked for a locksmith company in Charlotte. He had access to key-cutting equipment and customer records. The police brought him in for questioning. He admitted to everything. He said he'd been copying keys from customers who came into the locksmith shop, then using them to enter apartments when the residents weren't home. He'd been doing it for months. He'd plant Airtags to track when people left their apartments. Then he'd enter, look around, take small items that wouldn't be immediately missed. Jewelry, cash, electronics. But with me, he said he hadn't stolen anything. He just wanted to visit. That made it so much worse. He'd been in my apartment, going through my things, and he hadn't even taken anything. He was just there to violate my space. The police searched his apartment and found dozens of Airtags, copied keys, and items stolen from at least 20 different apartments. Marcus was charged with burglary, stalking, and unlawful surveillance. He pled guilty and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. But here's what I can't stop thinking about. The police said Marcus had a notebook, a detailed log of every apartment he'd entered, every person he'd tracked. My entry was the most detailed, pages and pages about me, my schedule, my routines, where I shopped, where I worked, what car I drove. He'd written about the layout of my apartment, what food I kept in my fridge, what books were on my nightstand. He'd been tracking me for 3 weeks before I found the first Airtag. 3 weeks of watching my every move, learning everything about me. Detective Reeves said, I was lucky I found the Airtag when I did. Marcus's notes indicated he was planning something special for me. She wouldn't tell me what that meant, but I could see it in her eyes. Whatever he was planning, it wasn't good. I moved out of that apartment, changed my locks, changed my routines. I don't go to South Park Mall anymore, but sometimes I wonder, how many other Marcus Reeds are out there? How many locksmiths or maintenance workers or delivery drivers have access to our homes and are using that access to track us, watch us, violate us? How many Airtags are hidden in our homes right now, tracking us without our knowledge? It's been 4 months since Marcus was arrested. I check my apartment daily for tracking devices. I bought a signal detector that scans for Bluetooth devices, but I'll never feel completely safe again because I know how easy it was for him, how simple it is to copy a key, plant a tracker, and invade someone's life, all with a piece of technology that costs $29. I'm 26 years old, work as a marketing coordinator in Miami, Florida, and make about $51,000 a year. I've been single for about 8 months, and like most people my age, I've been using dating apps, mostly Hinge and Bumble, occasionally Tinder. In December 2024, I matched with a guy named Alex on Hinge. His profile looked good, 28 years old, worked in tech, had nice photos, seemed normal. We chatted for a few days, and he seemed funny and interesting. He asked if I wanted to meet for coffee. I said yes. We agreed to meet at a Starbucks in Brickell on a Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m. Public place, daytime, safe. I got there first and grabbed a table by the window. Alex showed up right on time. He looked like his photos, which was a relief. Tall, maybe 6'1", brown hair, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt. The coffee date went well. We talked for about an hour and a half. He was charming, asked good questions, seemed genuinely interested. At the end, he asked if I wanted to get dinner sometime. I said yes. We exchanged numbers and I drove home feeling good about it. That night, around 10 p.m., I got a notification on my iPhone. Airtag detected near you. This Airtag has been moving with you for some time. I was sitting on my couch watching TV. I made the Airtag play a sound. Beeping started from my purse. I dumped out my purse on the coffee table, and there it was, an Airtag tucked into the inner pocket. My stomach dropped. Alex, he must have put it there during our coffee date. But when? I tried to remember. I'd set my purse on the empty chair next to me when we sat down. Alex had offered to get my coffee refill at one point. I'd stayed at the table. He could have slipped it in then. I texted him immediately. Did you put an Airtag in my purse? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, a response. What? Number. Why would I do that? I just found one in my purse. It's been tracking me since our date. That's crazy. It wasn't me. Who else would have access to my purse? I don't know. Maybe someone at the coffee shop? I didn't believe him. The timing was too perfect. I blocked his number and deleted his contact. Then I called the police. A Miami PD officer came to my apartment and took a report. I showed him the Airtag, explained about the date, gave him Alex's information from Hinge. These dating app cases are becoming more common, the officer said. Guys use first dates to plant trackers on women. Then they use the tracking to show up at places the woman goes, make it seem like a coincidence. Can you arrest him? We'll bring him in for questioning. But unless he admits to it, it's hard to prove. He could claim someone else did it, or that you're mistaken. The officer took the Airtag as evidence. Detective Harris was assigned to my case. She called me the next day. We spoke with Alex Torres. He denies placing the Airtag, says you must have picked it up somewhere else and are trying to frame him. That's ridiculous. It showed up right after our date. I believe you. But without proof, we can't charge him. I'd recommend blocking him on all platforms and being careful about where you go for the next few weeks. I did block him everywhere. Hinge, Instagram, Facebook, his phone number. 2 days later, I was at Whole Foods after work. I was in the produce section when I saw him. Alex, standing near the bakery, looking at his phone. I froze. Was this a coincidence, or was he following me? I quickly turned and walked toward the exit. I didn't buy anything. I just left. In my car, my hands were shaking. I checked my purse, my car, everything. No Airtags. But he'd known I was there. How? I called Detective Harris and told her what happened. It could be a coincidence, she said, or he could be tracking you another way. Check your car thoroughly. Also check your phone for any tracking apps. I went through my iPhone settings. I didn't see anything suspicious. No unknown apps, no unusual permissions. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. Saw you at Whole Foods today. You left in a hurry. I screenshot it and sent it to Detective Harris. Another text came through. We should try this again. I think we had a connection. I didn't respond. I just forwarded the text to Detective Harris. The next morning, I woke up to find my car had been keyed. Someone had scraped a deep line down the driver's side, from the front door to the back bumper. I called the police. They took a report and said they'd review my apartment complex's security footage. Detective Harris called me later that day. We got him on camera. Alex Torres keying your car at 3:17 a.m. We're issuing a warrant for his arrest. Alex was arrested that afternoon at his apartment in Coral Gables. He was charged with stalking, harassment, and criminal mischief. During the search of his apartment, police found something disturbing: a laptop with a spreadsheet, names, dates, locations. At least 15 different women, all from dating apps. Each entry included detailed notes about where they lived, where they worked, what their routines were. My entry was the most recent and the most detailed. He'd been tracking me since our date, documenting everywhere I went. But here's the part that made me sick. The police found 6 more Airtags in his apartment, unused, still in the packaging. He'd been planning to use them on other women. Alex was also connected to 2 other open stalking cases in Miami-Dade County. Women who'd reported being followed after meeting men on dating apps. The police believed he'd used Airtags on them too. At his arraignment, Alex pled not guilty. His lawyer argued that the evidence was circumstantial, that the spreadsheet was just a way to keep track of dates, nothing sinister. But the jury didn't buy it. He was convicted on all charges and sentenced to 4 years in prison. During the trial, I learned more about how he'd operated. He'd create multiple profiles on different dating apps using different photos and information. He'd match with women, go on first dates at coffee shops or restaurants, and find moments to slip Airtags into purses or bags. Then he'd track them for weeks, learning their routines, showing up at the same places to create chance encounters. If the women seemed interested, he'd escalate. If they rejected him, he'd become aggressive. The prosecutor said Alex had been doing this for at least 2 years. They estimated he'd tracked over 30 women in that time. Some of those women came forward during the trial. They told stories similar to mine. First dates, feeling like they were being followed, finding Airtags weeks later. One woman said Alex had broken into her car and left flowers on the driver's seat with a note that said, "I know you like tulips." Another said he'd shown up at her workplace, claiming he just happened to be in the area. The pattern was clear. Alex was using technology to stalk women, and he was getting better at it. The prosecutor said if I hadn't found that AirTag when I did, if I hadn't reported it immediately, things could have been much worse. That was 6 months ago. Alex is in prison, and I've since deleted all my dating apps. I don't go on first dates anymore. I don't meet strangers from the internet. Because I learned that the person sitting across from you at coffee, smiling and making jokes, could be planning something sinister. And all it takes is a moment. A distraction while they slip an AirTag into your purse. A split second where you're not watching your belongings. And suddenly, they know everything about you. Where you live, where you work, where you shop, where you eat. They know your routine better than you do. I still check my car every day. I still scan for tracking devices. I still look over my shoulder in parking lots. Because even though Alex is in prison, I know there are others out there. Other men using AirTags and dating apps to find victims. The technology is too easy to use, too accessible, too cheap. $29 on Amazon. That's all it costs to track someone without their knowledge. And there's no way to know if someone's using one on you until your phone tells you. And by then, they've already been watching for days, maybe weeks. I'll never feel completely safe again. Every date, every coffee shop, every public place is a potential risk. Because I know how quickly someone can invade your life, how easily they can learn everything about you, all with a piece of technology the size of a quarter, an AirTag, and it's terrifying. I'm 22 years old, work as a server at an Olive Garden in Phoenix, Arizona, and make about $28,000 a year with tips. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment about 20 minutes from work. I've always been pretty independent, maybe overly confident about being out alone at night, but this experience changed that completely. This happened in October 2024. I was closing shift, which meant I didn't get off work until around 11 p.m. on weeknights, sometimes midnight on weekends. The restaurant is located in a shopping center with a massive parking lot. During the day, the lot is packed, but at night, especially when I'm leaving, it's mostly empty except for a few employee cars. On this particular Tuesday night, I clocked out around 11:15 p.m. It had been a slow night, and I was exhausted. I said goodbye to the other closing staff and walked out to my car, a 2017 Honda Accord that I'd bought used the year before. The parking lot was dimly lit. Half the streetlights were out, something the shopping center management had been working on for months. My car was parked toward the back of the lot, maybe 200 feet from the restaurant entrance. As I was walking, I had that feeling. You know the one. The feeling that someone's watching you. I looked around but didn't see anyone, just empty cars and shadows. I unlocked my car with the key fob, got in, locked the doors immediately, and started the engine. That's when my iPhone buzzed. I looked at the screen. There was a notification I'd never seen before. AirTag detected near you. This AirTag is not registered to your Apple ID and has been moving with you for a while. My stomach dropped. I read it again, trying to understand what it meant. Someone had put an AirTag on me, or in my car, and it had been tracking me. I sat there for a moment, my hands shaking. The notification gave me an option to make the AirTag play a sound so I could locate it. I pressed it. A high-pitched beeping started. It was coming from under my seat. I reached down, feeling around under the driver's seat. My fingers touched something small and plastic. I pulled it out. It was an AirTag. White, circular, about the size of a quarter, but thicker. Someone had placed it under my seat. I felt sick. How long had it been there? The notification said it had been moving with me for a while. Hours? Days? I looked around the parking lot. There were a few cars scattered around, but I couldn't see anyone inside them. The restaurant was still lit up, and I could see the closing staff through the windows, cleaning tables. I grabbed my phone and Googled what to do. Every article said the same thing. If you find an AirTag that isn't yours, someone is tracking you. Call the police immediately. I dialed 911, my voice shaking as I explained the situation to the dispatcher. She said officers were on their way and told me to stay in my car with the doors locked. I sat there, staring at the AirTag in my hand. There was a white side with the Apple logo and a silver side with a battery cover. I turned it over, examining it. No identifying marks, no name, nothing. About 10 minutes later, 2 police cars pulled into the parking lot. I got out of my car, still holding the Airtag. The officers, a man and a woman, asked me to explain what happened. I showed them my phone with the notification and the Airtag. "How long have you had this car?" the male officer asked. "About a year." "And you just got this notification tonight?" "Yeah, right when I got in my car to leave." The female officer took the Airtag from me and examined it. These things are becoming a real problem. People use them to stalk others, track their cars, all kinds of creepy stuff. "Can you find out who it belongs to?" I asked. "Not easily," she said. "Apple doesn't share that information without a warrant, but we can file a report, and if you want to pursue it, we can try to get a subpoena." She took down my information and gave me a case number. "In the meantime, check your car thoroughly. Make sure there aren't any other tracking devices, and be aware of your surroundings. Whoever put this in your car knows where you live, where you work, probably everywhere you go." That last part made me feel like I was going to throw up. The officers left, and I sat in my car, searching every inch of it, under the seats, in the glove box, in the trunk, under the floor mats. I didn't find anything else. I drove home that night, constantly checking my rearview mirror. Every car behind me felt like a threat. Every set of headlights made my heart race. When I got to my apartment complex, I parked under a streetlight, close to the entrance. I ran from my car to my door, unlocked it as fast as I could, and slammed it shut behind me. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on my couch with all the lights on, checking the Find My app on my phone over and over, even though I knew the Airtag was with the police now. The next morning, I called Apple's support line. I explained what happened and asked if there was any way to find out who owned the Airtag. The representative was sympathetic, but said they couldn't provide that information without law enforcement involvement. I called the police station and spoke to the detective who'd been assigned my case. He said they'd submitted a request to Apple for the Airtag owner's information, but it could take weeks to get a response. Weeks. In the meantime, I was supposed to just go about my life, knowing someone had been tracking me. I started changing my routine. I parked in different spots at work. I took different routes home. I checked my car every single day for new tracking devices. 3 days later, I got another notification. Airtag detected near you. I was at the grocery store. I immediately checked my car. Nothing under the seats, nothing in the trunk. But the Airtag was somewhere nearby, according to my phone. I made it play a sound. The beeping was coming from my purse. I dumped everything out onto the passenger seat. Wallet, keys, makeup, receipts. And there it was. Another Airtag tucked into the inside pocket of my purse. Someone had put it there. Recently, probably at work. I called the police again. This time, they sent the same female officer from before. "This is escalating," she said. "Whoever's doing this is persistent. They're not giving up." "What am I supposed to do?" I asked, my voice cracking. "File for a restraining order if you have any idea who it might be. Otherwise, we'll keep documenting these incidents. But honestly, these cases are hard to prosecute without more evidence." "More evidence? They're literally tracking me." "I know. I'm sorry. But unless we can identify who's doing it, there's not much we can do." I felt helpless. I started making a list of everyone who had access to my car or my purse. Co-workers, friends, even my ex-boyfriend from 2 years ago, who I hadn't spoken to since we broke up. I couldn't narrow it down. Too many people had been near my car or my purse at some point. A week later, I was walking out of work again. It was Friday night, around midnight. The parking lot was nearly empty. As I approached my car, I saw someone standing next to it, a man, average height, wearing a hoodie and jeans. He was looking down at his phone. I stopped walking. My heart was pounding. He looked up and saw me. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then he smiled. Not a friendly smile, a knowing smile. "Is this your car?" he asked casually. I didn't answer. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone, ready to call 911. "Relax," he said. "I was just admiring it. Nice Accord." He walked away, hands in his pockets, heading toward a dark pickup truck parked a few rows over. I stood there frozen until he got in his truck and drove off. Then I ran to my car, got in, and immediately checked for Airtags. There was one, stuck to the inside of my rear wheel well with a magnet. I pulled it off and threw it on the ground. Then I drove straight to the police station. The detective on my case was still there, working late. I told him about the man in the parking lot, described him as best I could. "Did you get his license plate?" he asked. "No." I was too scared. But he was driving a dark pickup truck, maybe black or dark blue. He took notes. "We'll increase patrols in that area, and I'll request security footage from the shopping center. Maybe we can get a look at him." 2 days later, the detective called me. They'd reviewed the footage. The man's face was too obscured by the hoodie to make a clear identification, and his license plate wasn't visible. Dead end. But he gave me one piece of good news. Apple had responded to their request. The Airtags were all registered to the same Apple ID, and they had a name, Brandon Kepler. I didn't recognize the name. The detective ran it through their system. No criminal record, no restraining orders, nothing. They brought him in for questioning. He denied everything, said his Airtags had been stolen weeks ago and he'd reported it to Apple. And technically, he was right. There was a report in Apple's system that those Airtags had been marked as lost. Without proof that he'd placed them himself, they couldn't charge him with anything. I was devastated. I knew it was him. The timing, the persistence, the fact that he happened to be in the parking lot that night. But legally, there was nothing the police could do. I ended up quitting my job at Olive Garden. I couldn't work there anymore, knowing he might show up again. I moved to a different apartment complex on the other side of town. I bought a new car, traded in my Accord for a Nissan Sentra. I check my phone every single day for Airtag notifications. I've become obsessed with it. Every time I'm in public, every time I'm in a parking lot, I'm looking over my shoulder. It's been 4 months since the last Airtag, but I know he's still out there, Brandon Kepler, and I know he knows I moved, he knows I changed cars. Because last week, I got a notification. Airtag detected near you. I haven't found it yet, but I know it's somewhere. I'm 25 years old, work as a social media manager for a marketing agency in Austin, Texas, and make about $52,000 a year. I've been single for about 6 months now, after ending a 2-year relationship with my ex-boyfriend, Tyler. The breakup wasn't particularly messy, at least not at first. We just grew apart, wanted different things. He took it harder than I did, but after a few weeks of sad texts, he seemed to move on. Or so I thought. This all started in December 2024. I'd been going to the same gym for about a year, a 24-hour fitness about 10 minutes from my apartment. I usually went after work, around 6 p.m., 3 or 4 times a week. It was part of my routine. One evening, I was finishing up on the treadmill when I noticed someone watching me, a guy maybe in his 30s, standing near the weight racks. Every time I looked up, he was looking in my direction. I tried to ignore it, but it made me uncomfortable. I cut my workout short and headed to the locker room. As I was leaving the gym, I saw him again. He was in the parking lot, standing by his car, which was parked near mine. When he saw me, he quickly got in and drove off. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was being paranoid. But it stuck with me. 2 days later, I was at Target after work, picking up some groceries and household items. As I was walking down the cleaning supplies aisle, I saw him again. The same guy from the gym. This time, he didn't notice me. He was looking at his phone, walking slowly, like he was following something. I quickly turned down a different aisle and walked fast toward the checkout. My heart was racing. It couldn't be a coincidence. First the gym, now Target. I paid for my items and practically ran to my car. I sat there for a minute, watching the entrance, waiting to see if he'd come out. He didn't. When I got home, I locked my door and immediately called my best friend Jessica. "I think someone's following me," I said. "What? Who?" I explained about the gym and Target. She said I should call the police, but I didn't have any proof. What was I going to say? A guy happened to be at the same 2 places as me? But the next day, something happened that confirmed my worst fears. I was at Starbucks getting my usual iced coffee before work. When my iPhone buzzed, I pulled it out and saw a notification I didn't recognize. Airtag detected near you. This Airtag has been moving with you for several days. My blood ran cold. Someone was tracking me with an Airtag. The notification gave me options. I could play a sound to locate it, see a map of where it had been, or get instructions on how to disable it. I tapped play sound. A beeping came from my bag, my work tote, the bag I carried every single day. I set the bag on a table and dumped everything out, Laptop, planner, water bottle, makeup bag, wallet. And there, at the bottom, was an Airtag. I picked it up, staring at it. How long had it been there? The notification said several days. That meant someone had been tracking my every move for days, maybe longer. I looked around the Starbucks. The place was crowded with the morning rush. Anyone could have put it in my bag. At the gym, at Target, at work. I took the Airtag in my phone and walked outside. I pulled up the map, showing where the Airtag had been. It showed a trail. My apartment, my gym, Target, my office, Starbucks. Everywhere I'd been over the past week. I called the police. A uniformed officer met me at the Starbucks about 20 minutes later. I showed him the Airtag and the notification on my phone. "Do you have any idea who might be doing this?" he asked. I told him about the man at the gym and Target. I gave him the best description I could. Average height, dark hair, maybe early 30s. "What about an ex-boyfriend or someone you've had a conflict with?" "I have an ex, but we broke up 6 months ago. It wasn't a bad breakup." "Still, we should check it out." "What's his name?" "Tyler Morrison." The officer took down all the information and said they'd look into it. He took the Airtag as evidence and gave me a case number. "In the meantime," he said, "check your belongings regularly. Your car, your bags, your clothes. These things are small and easy to hide." I went home that day and searched everything. My car, my apartment, every bag and jacket I owned. I didn't find anything else, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I started noticing things. A car parked across from my apartment that I hadn't seen before. Someone walking behind me a little too long when I was out. Shadows at night that moved when I looked. 3 days later, I was at the grocery store when I got another notification. "Airtag detected near you." My hand started shaking. I made it play a sound. The beeping was coming from my coat pocket, the winter jacket I'd been wearing. I reached in and pulled out another Airtag. Whoever was doing this had replaced the one the police took. I drove straight to the police station. The officer from before, Officer Martinez, met with me again. "This is escalating," he said. "We ran the serial numbers on the first Airtag. It's registered to Tyler Morrison." My stomach dropped. "Tyler? My ex?" "Yes, we brought him in for questioning yesterday. He denied placing the Airtag, said you probably put it in your own bag to frame him." "That's insane. Why would I do that?" "That's what we said. But without proof that he physically placed it, we can't arrest him. He could claim he lost it, someone stole it, anything. But now there's a second one, and we'll run this one too. But I'm guessing it'll come back to him as well. In the meantime, I'd recommend filing for a restraining order." I filed the paperwork that day. A hearing was scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, Tyler started texting me. "I heard you went to the cops about me." "Really?" "We broke up 6 months ago. Get over it. I'm not stalking you." "You're making a huge mistake." I didn't respond. I forwarded all the texts to Officer Martinez. The day before the restraining order hearing, I was at home watching TV when I heard a noise outside my apartment door. A soft thud, like something being set down. I looked through the peephole. Nobody was there. I waited a few minutes, then slowly opened the door. There was a package sitting on my doormat, a small box wrapped in brown paper with no label or address. I didn't touch it. I called Officer Martinez. "Don't open it," he said. "I'm sending someone over." 2 officers arrived and carefully examined the package. They opened it with gloves on. Inside was a phone, an old iPhone, maybe a 6 or 7, and it was on. One of the officers pressed the home button. The screen lit up. There was a single app open, Find My, and it was tracking my location. "He's been tracking you with this," the officer said. "He probably left it outside your door so it would be close enough to ping your location." They took the phone as evidence. At the restraining order hearing the next day, I presented everything, the Airtags, the texts, the phone. Tyler sat across from me with his lawyer, denying everything. "She's my ex-girlfriend," he said. "She's clearly not over the breakup and is trying to get back at me." His lawyer argued that the Airtags could have been lost or stolen, that the texts were taken out of context, that the phone could have been planted by me. But the judge saw through it. The pattern was too clear, the evidence too consistent. The restraining order was granted. Tyler was ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my home, and my workplace. He stared at me as he left the courtroom, not angry, not sad, just blank. Like he was studying me. That was 3 months ago. I haven't heard from Tyler since. No texts, no calls, no more Airtags. But last week, something happened that made me realize it's not over. I was at a coffee shop, a new place I'd never been to before, across town from my usual spots. I was sitting by the window, working on my laptop, when someone sat down at the table next to me. I looked up. It was the man from the gym, the one who'd been following me. He looked at me, smiled, and pulled out his phone. He tapped something on the screen, then turned it toward me. It was the Find My app, and it was showing my location, right there in the coffee shop. "Tyler says hi," he said quietly. Then he stood up and walked out. I sat there frozen, my heart pounding. I checked my phone, no Airtag notifications. I checked my bag, my pockets, my laptop case, nothing. I called Officer Martinez and told him what happened. He said they'd look into it, but without knowing who the man was or having proof of what he'd shown me, there wasn't much they could do. "Tyler's using someone else to do his dirty work," I said. "Probably. But proving it is another matter. I've started carrying a tile detector, a device that scans for Airtags and other Bluetooth trackers. I check it constantly, multiple times a day. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. The man at the coffee shop showed me my location on his phone, which means there's still a tracker somewhere, something I haven't found yet. I've torn apart my car, my apartment, every bag and piece of clothing I own. I've scanned with the tile detector dozens of times, but I can't find it. And that means Tyler is still watching, still tracking, still waiting. The restraining order doesn't matter. He's found a way around it, and I don't know how to stop him. Every time I leave my apartment, every time I go somewhere new, I wonder if he's watching, if he knows where I am. I've thought about moving out of state, starting over somewhere new where Tyler doesn't know anyone, where I can disappear. But what if he finds me again? What if the tracker is something I'm carrying with me, something I'll take with me wherever I go? I'm trapped, and I don't know how to get free, all because of a piece of technology the size of a quarter, an Airtag, something so small, so innocent looking, that can completely destroy your sense of safety and privacy. I'll never feel safe again. Not really, because somewhere, somehow, Tyler is still watching, and there's nothing I can do to stop him. I'm 29 years old, work as a pharmaceutical sales rep based out of Denver, Colorado, and make about $68,000 a year, plus commission. My job requires me to travel a lot, usually within Colorado and surrounding states, visiting doctors' offices and hospitals to pitch our products. I'm on the road at least 2 weeks out of every month. In January 2025, I had a week-long trip scheduled. I was driving from Denver to Salt Lake City, then down to Las Vegas and back to Denver. About 1,400 miles total over 7 days. I'd done similar trips dozens of times. It was routine. I rented a car from Enterprise at Denver International Airport. A white 2024 Toyota Camry, pretty standard. Clean, good gas mileage, comfortable for long drives. I loaded my suitcase and work materials into the trunk and headed out around 8 a.m. The first 2 days were normal. I drove to Salt Lake City, met with several clients, stayed at a Hampton Inn, and then drove to Vegas the next day. Nothing unusual, just work. On the third day, I was in Vegas, finishing up my last appointment around 4 p.m. I had the evening free before driving back toward Denver the next morning. I had decided to grab dinner and maybe see a show. I was walking back to my rental car in the parking structure of the medical complex when my iPhone buzzed. I pulled it out and saw a notification. Airtag detected near you. This Airtag has been moving with you for some time. I stopped walking. My first thought was that maybe Enterprise had put tracking devices in their rental cars. Some companies do that, right? For theft prevention. But the notification said the Airtag wasn't registered to me, which meant someone else was tracking the car. I got into the car and made the Airtag play a sound. A beeping started immediately. It was coming from under the driver's seat. I reached under and felt around. My hand touched something stuck to the metal frame of the seat. I pulled it off. An Airtag, attached with what looked like a small magnetic mount. My stomach turned. Someone had put this in the rental car. But who? And when? I sat there thinking. I'd picked up the car 3 days ago. The Airtag could have been placed any time before that, by a previous renter, by someone at the rental company, by anyone. Or it could have been placed after I rented it, by someone following me. I looked around the parking structure. It was mostly empty, a few cars scattered around, but I couldn't see anyone inside them. I Googled what to do. Every article said to contact the police. But I was in Vegas, hundreds of miles from home, and I had to keep moving for work. I decided to call Enterprise first. I explained the situation to the customer service representative. She sounded concerned and said she'd flag the vehicle and notify their security team. She offered to let me switch to a different car at their Vegas location. I drove to the nearest Enterprise, returned the Camry, and got a different car, a silver Nissan Altima. I checked it thoroughly before driving off. Under the seats, in the glove box, in the trunk, behind the license plates. Nothing. I felt better. Problem solved. That night, I stayed at a hotel on the Strip, had dinner, and tried to relax. The next morning, I started the drive back toward Denver. My plan was to stop in Grand Junction, Colorado for the night, then finish the drive to Denver the following day. About an hour outside of Vegas, heading northeast on the 15, my phone buzzed again. Airtag detected near you. Number, no. I pulled over at the next rest stop and made the Airtag play a sound. The beeping was coming from the trunk. I opened the trunk and searched through my suitcase, my work bag, the spare tire compartment. Nothing. Then I looked at the trunk itself. There, stuck to the inside of the trunk lid with a magnet, was another Airtag. My hands started shaking. This wasn't a coincidence. Someone had put this in the new car, or they'd transferred it from the old car somehow. But how? I'd watched the Enterprise employee do the walk-around of the new car before I drove off. Nobody else had been near it, unless they'd put it there after I left Enterprise, while I was at the hotel. While I was asleep, I felt sick. Someone was actively tracking me, following me. They'd found the new car and tagged it. I called the police. A Nevada Highway Patrol officer met me at the rest stop about 30 minutes later. I showed him the Airtag and explained everything. He took the Airtag and ran the serial number through some kind of database, but said it came back as unregistered. Whoever owned it hadn't set it up with their Apple ID, which meant it was essentially untraceable. Could just be someone messing with you, he said, or it could be someone seriously stalking you. Either way, I'd recommend finding a different car and varying your route. Don't follow a predictable pattern. He filed a report and gave me his card. I drove back to Enterprise in Vegas and explained what happened. This time, the manager took it more seriously. He gave me a different car, a black Honda Accord, and personally inspected it with me. We checked everywhere. Under the seats, in the trunk, under the car itself, behind the bumpers. Nothing. I'm really sorry this is happening, he said. We've never had an issue like this before. I'll report it to corporate. I drove out of Vegas for the second time that day, now several hours behind schedule. I made it to Grand Junction around 10 p.m. and checked into a La Quinta Inn. I parked the car directly under a light in the parking lot where I could see it from my room window. I barely slept. Every hour or so, I'd get up and look out the window to make sure the car was still there, that nobody was near it. The next morning, I did another thorough check of the car before leaving. Nothing. I started driving toward Denver. I was about 2 hours into the drive, passing through a remote stretch of I-70 in the mountains, when my phone buzzed again. Airtag detected near you. I screamed, actually screamed. I pulled over on the shoulder of the highway, hazard lights on, and frantically searched the car. This time, I found it tucked inside the air vent on the dashboard. Someone had wedged it in there. I had to use my keys to pry it out. 3 cars, 3 different Airtags. Someone was following me, placing new trackers every time I found one. I sat on the side of the highway, crying, holding the Airtag in my hand. I called my boss and explained what was happening. She told me to come straight home, forget the rest of the work week, and that she'd handle everything with clients. I called Enterprise again. This time, I demanded to know if any of their employees had access to my rental information, who knew what car I was driving, what my itinerary was. The manager said that information was confidential and only accessible to certain employees, but he admitted that anyone with access to their system could see it. Could an employee be doing this? I asked. I can't speculate on that. But it's possible. It's possible. I drove straight to Denver, breaking every speed limit. I returned the car to Enterprise at the airport and got in my personal car, a 2019 Subaru Outback, which had been parked in long-term parking. I checked it thoroughly. No Airtags. I drove home, went inside my apartment, locked the door, and closed all the blinds. I filed a police report in Denver. Detective named Kim was assigned to my case. She said she'd reach out to Enterprise and request information about who had accessed my rental records. "This is serious," she said. "Whoever's doing this has resources and determination. They're not giving up." Over the next few days, I checked my car obsessively. Every morning, every night, sometimes in the middle of the day. I bought a Bluetooth tracker detector and scanned my car and apartment daily. Nothing. No more Airtags. Detective Kim called me a week later. Enterprise turned over their access logs. There were 7 employees who viewed your rental information during your trip. We're interviewing all of them. And, so far nothing. They all have alibis for the times the Airtags would have been placed. But we're still investigating. 2 weeks later, still nothing. No arrests, no leads, no answers. But here's what terrifies me. I still travel for work. I still rent cars. And every single time, I spend the first 30 minutes checking every inch of the vehicle for Airtags. Last month, I rented a car in Phoenix. 2 hours into my drive, I got the notification. "Airtag detected near you." I found it under the passenger seat. I called Detective Kim. She said they were still investigating, but without knowing who was placing the trackers, there wasn't much they could do. "It could be an Enterprise employee," she said, "or it could be someone who has access to rental car information another way. Someone hacking their system. Someone who works for a competitor. We just don't know." I've thought about quitting my job, finding something that doesn't require travel. But why should I have to give up my career because someone is stalking me? I've also thought about what happens if they escalate. Right now, they're just tracking me. But what if that's not enough for them anymore? What if they want more? Every time I'm in a rental car, every time I'm in a hotel in a strange city, I wonder if they're watching, if they're in the parking lot, if they're in the room next to mine. The police say I'm not in immediate danger, that this person is just monitoring me, not approaching me. But that doesn't make me feel safe, because I know they're out there, somewhere, watching everywhere I go, and there's nothing I can do to stop them. All because of an Airtag, a piece of technology designed to help people find their lost keys. But in the wrong hands, it's a weapon, and I'm the target.